Hello everybody, it's Secret Oompa, and say hi Maxwell. Hello. Maxwell has bunny ears today. I don't know if you can see him. There's his little bunny ears. He's in his little bunny outfit. This video is actually in response to Tim's video, Up Down Mostly's video. I'm gonna hit on a couple topics that you mentioned, Tim. Hopefully catch them all, actually. To start out with, I'm very interested in hearing your thoughts about the book you're getting ready to read or are reading, called Switching Time. The part about it being a doctor's harrowing story has me less inclined to buy it right now. So feel free to let me know how it goes. I'd be interested. It also leads, I know, into a discussion about a topic I want to bring up later about integration. It seems to be a very tough topic at times, and I know it is one that's brought up in that book, so I will probably hit that topic at another point. You mentioned the topic of you brought up military. I actually have a friend that was in the military, and I believe that he probably compartmentalized some of what happened while he was overseas. He doesn't really talk about it. When he does, he brings up some really difficult things, and he has a difficult time, from what I see, trying to access that. But he goes on life like as it never even happened. But you can sometimes see how things affect him. From what he's been through. It's a very sensitive topic for him, but it seems very clear that something happened, at least in my eyes. That's just what I see. I think that the high level of PTSD can increase the level of dissociation, but I'm not sure if that I don't think that creates actual distinctive parts as in DID. But I've learned a lot in reading that I've done that says that DID comes from some level of trauma at an early age. What that trauma is and how it affects that individual is very different for everyone. What may have been a trauma to me may not have been a trauma to someone else. You might hear my cats making noise now. I think there are a lot of variables in there, but if it is trauma to that individual child and at that particular age, and the mind can't seem to make sense of it or can't handle it for whatever reason, then it finds a way to make it work. I think it is also created in a way that makes the child, in a sense, more safe in the environment that they're in by having one part deal with trauma, but then also be able to go back to going on with life as a child, or going from one trauma to another without shutting down. But the mind is an amazing part of the body, like you said, Tim. I think we all do our best managing what we've been throughout life, with or without DID. As a side note, as a side note, you mentioned, how do you hear or know about the others inside? Okay, so for me, I thought I'd answer this one on my perspective. I don't hear them as something separate outside of my body. I think that goes to something else that was actually asked in one of my other videos as a comment. Hearing voices on the outside and seeing other people on the outside is more on the lines of schizophrenia, so I wanted to clarify that and clear that up for the person that made that mentioned that comment. But back to my comment to your video. But I can look at my hands and see them as much smaller when I know a younger part is out, or I can feel myself as really small or see myself differently in the mirror. And as far as hearing them, I hear them in my head. I mostly know it's going on in my head. Sometimes it can be random thoughts or conversations, or sometimes screaming, yelling, or door slamming. The best way I can describe a conversation is like being in your car alone and having a conversation with yourself, or role playing a certain situation. Except for me, it's usually with another part. So that's how it is, or the best way I can describe it for me. Normal. Who defines normal? You're right, Tim, that Society defines a certain level of normalcy. It's like unwritten rules established. Those rules make it feel like I need to be hidden a lot of times and keep things silent, but really I feel like I'm no more crazy or normal than anyone else. I just deal with things differently. You brought up some other things. Dissociative disorders, are they a good thing or bad thing, and should we correct them? Again, these are just my opinions. While I think with anything you have the good and the bad, at some point I'm going to share some of the comical, silly things about having DID. But really, it's an awesome survival tool for the time that you need it. The problem comes into play when certain parts learn to cope one way a long time ago, and coping that way now can be an issue. I'm just trying to come up with an example. Maybe back when you were a child, something happened at night pretty regularly as a trauma, and a part developed, and part of that coping is to sleep afterwards, or to reset. But now as an adult, in the middle of the day, something triggers that part in some way to come out, and that part immediately feels the need to sleep or something. This is just an example. The first thing that came to mind, I don't know how accurate it is, but that may not be acceptable in the life that you're leading today. You can replace this with self-harming behaviors or other types of coping skills that may not necessarily be as good as others. If this may not be acceptable in the life that you're leading today, whether you're working or driving, so trying to develop new ways of coping and dealing with that trigger may be what is needed, and in that case is what is needed to correct the disorder. So I don't view dissociative disorders or DID as a bad thing. I do view it as a very good thing. It helped me to survive. But there are things about it that make day-to-day life difficult for myself and for many others. Should it be corrected? That's up to the individual. I went through part of my life not realizing DID existed in me until issues started developing that I wanted to understand and change. And my decision is that I want to learn and develop better coping skills and correct some of the misguided thoughts of the past inside my head. That's just me. And I wanted to end by saying this. If the mind is not prepared to deal with these issues, then I don't think, in my opinion, it should be pushed. I think that can cause re-trauma. I think it has to be dealt with at an individualized pace. If someone does not want to deal with it, then that is their prerogative. It's what works best for the individual. But keeping in... okay, back to what I was saying. It's their prerogative, but the key thing is that everybody is responsible for themselves, and so if I choose not to work on an issue that one of my parts has for, let's say, self-harming or something, I have to accept that responsibility of that part too. So there's still a level of responsibility whether or not you want to address the issue. Say goodbye, Maxwell. Bye. And thanks, Tim, for bringing up some conversation topics, and hope that maybe we can continue some of this. If anybody else wants to add any videos or bring up topics that they want to talk about as well, please feel free to. So with that, I'll say goodbye. Goodbye, everybody.